Chris, Lee and Blayne Gilmer of Southeastern here to preview Kentucky's trip to Mississippi State. You can catch that on the SEC Network, 6:30 Central Saturday night. Wildcats 5-3. State is 4-4. Our friends at BetOnline have set the line on this at 3.5 with the 46-point over/under. Neither team really thrilled with how they played last week. Kentucky had a big game with Tennessee, trailed the whole time. Did find its passing game, but was unable to knock off Tennessee. And Mississippi State, meanwhile, just didn't look great in a loss to Auburn. And the defense in particular didn't look great. Blayne, two teams who could really use a win this week.
Yeah, you're talking about Kentucky, with the aspirations, as we've said many times on this channel, Chris, big aspirations that Kentucky had going into this year. This is a must win. This is a win that you are expecting. I don't care that it's on the road. Kentucky is the more talented, the better football team right now. Mark Stoops is a more experienced coach than Zach Arnett. This is a game that you have to go on the road and win. And if you're Zach Arnett, you're looking at this as an opportunity to kind of have something to point to your team to say, hey, do you see the success that Kentucky has had, kind of the less with more, or the more with less model that Mark Stoops has been able to accomplish? We can do that same thing here at Mississippi State, and it starts right now. That's kind of something you point to as a head coach. So excited to see how this one plays out in Starkville this weekend, Chris.
Kentucky's offense last weekend was nothing like what we thought it would be. Devin Leary found the North Carolina State version of Devin Leary, found Dane Key, Barryon Brown, those guys. Ray Davis, who had carried that team, struggled against Tennessee, which has got a pretty good run defense. Kentucky averaging nearly 31 points a game and about 6.5 yards a play. State's defense statistically has gotten a boost lately by playing two bad offenses in Auburn and Arkansas its last two games, although even Auburn moved the ball pretty well against these guys. State averaging about 5.6 yards a play, giving up 26 a game. The thing for State, though, and this is where they've been able to maybe hang in some ball games, a 3% turnover rate. Turnovers have been an issue for Kentucky, which is turning it over 2.2% of the time.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I think you did see that magic that Devin Leary had when he was in Raleigh at NC State there and breaking Phillip Rivers records. And that was a much welcomed deal for Kentucky there, but it also was a little too late. I mean, there was a couple of times this year where you wished if you were a Kentucky fan that you'd saw at least somewhat close to that output. Even with that performance, Chris, Kentucky only averaging 7.4 yards per attempt. So it's been a struggle to get things going through the air on a consistent basis, but that has to be a welcome sign to get that kind of explosivity out of your receiving core, get other guys involved. The tight ends made some plays as well. So I think that's good. Now on the road, there's going to be some key third downs and some things like that Kentucky has to convert. And if you have more available to you in your options because you got the pass game going, that's going to bode well for you. We know Zach Arnett likes to bring pressure. He likes to be kind of exotic with those pressures. And he prides himself on trying to play hard-nosed defense. The problem for their defense against that Auburn game, Chris, was the tackling was abysmal, and that's not something we've necessarily seen out of Mississippi State. We've seen them get out-athleted a little bit at times, but usually Boogie Watson, Jet Johnson, those are two surefire tacklers. Like, they don't miss a whole lot, and there were some misses on Jarquez Hunter. There were some misses in the open field by DBs with allowing a lot of cushion and separation. So that has to bode well for Liam Cohen and that Kentucky passing offense.
All right, our channel sponsored by our friends at BetOnline. The last of major pro sports leagues has kicked off. BetOnline is your top spot for all your NBA action this season, with MLB postseason, NFL, college football, and NHL in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. Get everything NBA at your fingertips, both desktop and mobile access for every sport anytime. Head to BetOnline today. Get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Other side of the ball, Kentucky's defense has leaked a bit lately. Tennessee did some damage to them. Georgia did some damage to them. Still, Kentucky's forcing turnovers at a 3.4% rate, which is elite. It is averaging 5.5 yards, actually 5.4 to be technical per snap. State's offense, my goodness, this has looked so different even when everybody's healthy, and everybody's not healthy. Will Rogers sat out that game on Saturday against Auburn, presuming he's going to miss this week, and Mike Wright will go. Wright is a 10.8 in the 100-meter guy, but just doesn't throw it very well. So I think you kind of have to throw the stats out for Mississippi State's offense in this one, unless we know Will Rogers is healthy.
Yeah, I think it was just turnovers that hurt Mike Wright against Auburn from watching the game. He actually, Chris, and I have to give him credit, he actually stepped up and made some really nice throws, one on a touchdown pass in particular. Had some good throws down the field, but it was just some bad decision making at times that got him a couple turnovers in that game, and not being able to consistently be able to run the ball when they need to. But he can make plays with his legs. And listen, you got to be thinking, if you're Mississippi State, hey, we got to find a way to make sure we can run the football. There's not many times, Chris, that you can point back to a previous game and say, hey, look, a Mark Stoops, Brad White defense just gave up over 250 yards rushing, because that's what they did against Tennessee in the last game. If Woody Marks is healthy, that would help out a lot for Mississippi State. We don't know the status of him as of this point in time. So whether it's Davis, Pittman, whether it's Wright with his legs, you have to try to make that a priority if you're Mississippi State, and try to shorten this game by continuing to run the clock, pick up third downs, extend drives, and then try to put yourself in easy positions to convert some of those third downs and ultimately convert in the red zone versus what is traditionally a very good Kentucky defense. So I'm excited to see if Kentucky shores up things along that front, and if they can get pressure on Mike Wright if it is Mike Wright in this game.
Yeah, quick correction. Kentucky's defense forces turnovers at a 2.1% rate. I had a misread there. That's still pretty good. And State forcing them with its defense at a 1.9% rate. Oh, okay, Blayne, this one's been a weird series. It's in Davis-Wade Stadium. Kentucky needs one more win to get bowl eligible. State, I think if it can get a win, it's 5-4. Got to be feeling a little bit better about itself. We talked about Vegas having Kentucky as a 3.5-point favorite. This one is all over the place with computers. FPI, Team Rankings, and Sagarin all have State as a 2-point home favorite. And SP Plus has got Kentucky as a 5-point favorite. So very interesting. 3 of the 4 computers I look at all have State as a 2-point favorite. The other one, SP Plus, which I think is a little bit more per play based, and maybe factor special teams in a little bit too, has got Kentucky a 5-point favorite. I just watch these teams. Both have got issues, Blayne. But I liked what Kentucky did with Leary. I trust Ray Davis as maybe the best offensive player on the field. State's defense has just really struggled. It struggled with Auburn, for goodness sakes. You got the Zach Arnett hot seat talk. You got the Rogers injury. I know this has been a weird series, and State's done pretty well in it, but I'm feeling Kentucky in this one.
Yeah, I think that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think SP Plus might also take into account recruiting and roster talent as well year over year. And I think Kentucky's the more talented roster. What they've done in the transfer portal, what they've done in high school recruiting, Mark Stoops has really started to pick that up, the NIL stuff, even with him poor mouthing the NIL a little bit a couple of weeks ago after that Georgia game, Chris. They're doing just fine over there, being able to get some money and get some players over there. So I think with Kentucky having the advantage on that side of the ball, and then also I think being able to have in this game, especially if Will Rogers is out, better quarterback play, plus some talent on the edges, and the way that Mississippi State tackled last game doesn't give me a lot of confidence in that defense. Give me Kentucky to win this one, and I think they cover. I think Kentucky comes out kind of backs against the wall in this one, trying to accomplish some of the goals that they had before the season, and play really well on the road in Starkville.
We'll be to recap it here Saturday night. Best way to get that, hit the subscribe and like buttons. Tell a friend. For Blayne Gilmer, I'm Chris Lee. Thanks for watching us. And Blayne, I'll leave it to you to finish.
Presented by Bet Online.